When you run a business, there are a lot of boxes to check.
Let's see. Payroll? Check. Inventory? Check. Insurance?
Well, Good Thing Simply Business makes getting small business insurance fast and easy. Just answer a few questions, review your quotes, and get covered in under 10 minutes, all online. It's that simple. Check insurance off your list at simplybusiness.com.
Joining me now is Dr. James Thorp of Two Docs. You know, we air his show. He's a OBGYN, and he works with Dr. Moon. We air his show each and every weekend. It airs on Saturday and Sunday at worldviewtube.com, and then on demand at worldviewtube.com. And he joins us tonight to talk about many things, including, look at this one. Insurance industry data exposes 5,000 vaccine-linked deaths a week, okay? I think this is coming from Ed Dowd. I think that's the one putting this out. 5,000 vaccine-linked deaths a week. I think that's just in the U.S., folks. Now, is that number too high or too low or just accurate? Let's find out about that and many other things from Dr. James Thorp. Dr. Thorp, welcome back. Thanks for being with us.
Well, thanks for having me back on. It's been so long.
It has been a while.
It's way too long, but I so much appreciate being on your network. And thank you for all you do, Brennan.
Well, thank you. We're glad. I hope everybody will mark and go to. By the way, just so you guys know, you can go to WorldviewTube. Just go to worldviewtube, .com/TO Docs. TO, spell it out, Two Docs. And when you do, look at that. TWO. What did I say? No, yeah. TWO. WorldviewTube.com/TWODOCS. Okay? And there it is. And you can always go to TV and then TV shows and find it as well. So always just go to TV shows and find it. Otherwise, worldviewtube.com/TWODOCS. And you can watch all of their shows and load more episodes and share with your family and friends. They have a lot of great stuff here, folks, for you to share with people. Now, let's go back to that, Doc. I think this is coming from Ed Dowd. This is a brand new article. It's out yesterday. 5,000 vaccine-linked deaths a week. Is that number too low, too high, about right? What do you think, Doc?
It's way too low, and it's far too low.
So you think the deaths are much higher a week than that?
It's much higher than that. Now, I assume that that's focusing just on the United States of America.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just dissect that. Let's do a deep dive on that. We know that just from the Pfizer vaccine itself, in the first 10 weeks of rollout, there were 42,086 casualties, 42,086 casualties, including 1,223 dead. Now that's just 10 weeks, right? Just 10 weeks. So, and that's only one vaccine, that's Pfizer vaccine. Now, if you go to, and if you go to fairs, in January of 2021, there were 700 deaths. 700. Now, we know from the Pilgrims Project of Harvard that of 2010, the VAERS picks up only about 1%. So you're looking at 70,000 dead in 1 month just from the COVID-19, just from really COVID-19 vaccines. So recognize that the vast majority of those deaths occurred really within 3 days in a completely otherwise well human being, a normal human being, very healthy, drops over dead, 5 minutes after the shot or 72 hours after the shot. It was catastrophic.
70,000 a month. If you take 70,000 and you divide that by 4, we're at 17,500 deaths a week, not 5,000. So this number may be off by three times. It should be On that basis, 17,500 a week dead, not 5,000.
It's even way more than that. Remember, that's only looking at the deaths that occurred attributed by the doctor, by the patient, by the nurse, a minority of some family members in close proximity to the vaccine. The way that I believe this vaccine was designed to kill was in the long term. And I knew that back in 2020. This was designed to obfuscate an etiology, a cause of the deaths. Why? Because we know that the lipid nanoparticles go to every single organ system. It causes or exacerbates a pre-existing chronic disease in every single organ system. So the direct result of that is deaths 6 months after, 12 months, a year, 5 years, and 10 years after the vaccine from a new chronic disease that was caused by the vaccine. So this is what that 5,000 isn't including at all.
Good grief. Now let's talk about what's in these shots. I got a clip I want to play, guys. Listen to this. Doc, we'll have you respond to this. Here we go.
Including, as the governor said, a number of these products, and actually all of them in one way or another, are implicated in abortion. For example, the MMR and the varicella vaccine, in every single vial, has millions of pieces of cellular and DNA debris from the cultured cell line of an aborted fetus. If you take issue with that, you're taking issue with the CDC and the FDA and all the literature that explains how those products are developed. You got to grow virus on some kind of cellular medium, and that's the cellular medium on which it grows, and you can't filter it all out, so a lot of it ends up in the vial. Some people find that objectionable, others don't, and that's their freedom to do so. But she does, and so do many others. And they shouldn't be forced to participate in that kind of product if they find that against their religious convictions.
Mm-hmm. But wait a minute, Dr. Thorp, weren't we told by some of these pastors in America, hirelings in America, not real pastors, hirelings, the vaccine is a blessing from God, says Dallas pastor. Let me put that in and see what pops up, because I think that's, who said that? Robert Jeffress, I'm pretty sure. These vaccines are a gift from God. First Baptist Dallas promoting COVID-19 vaccine, hosting a clinic. Yeah, that'd be Pastor Robert Jeffress. Yeah, how are they a blessing from God when they're killing people, injuring people, causing people to be infertile and filled with aborted fetuses? Are used from aborted fetuses? Help me understand that, please.
Well, I think you heard it from the attorney for ICANN, Attorney Aaron Siri. And one thing I learned is Aaron Siri has hit the nail with the hammer and is irrefutable. What he said is true. As you know, I testified with him in the Congress, in the Senate specifically, about 5 weeks ago. He knows his facts, and the facts know him. And he can argue that with the best of them. It's irrefutable that those vaccines are derived from aborted fetuses in terms of their DNA. So let that sink in. Everybody denied it. With regard to the pastors, it's not just the Christians, although we are pathetic, and most of our churches are pathetic, and most of our church leaders are pathetic. No surprise, Jesus told us in Revelation chapter 2 and chapter 3, and I've sat through many of your Bible studies on Revelation. And, you are very well aware, and you taught us the letters directly from Jesus Christ to John, the apostle, direct letters to each one of those 7 churches. And I think that you would agree one level of understanding of those 7 churches is that they represent epochs or ages of the church age, from the crucifixion until the start of the 7-year tribulation. And is it a surprise that we're living in the age of the church of Laodicea, which Jesus had nothing good to say about it? And I personally believe that he's going to be more angry at these pastors, many of whom you've mentioned on your program, than he was at the Pharisees of his day.
Well said.
This is very, very clear. Maggie Thorp, JD, also has a master's in theology from Duke. And thank God she didn't get contaminated with their nonsense teachings, their liberal progressive teachings at Duke University. But she didn't, and she learned a lot. But she is a brilliant writer and an attorney. And as you know, on the American Out Loud platform, Maggie Thorpe JD has first authored, I've second authored probably 15 or 20 specific articles looking at how every segment of the fabric of our society was bribed by the government. And one of those segments that we wrote on, you may recall, was on how they bribed all of the religions, not just Christians, but Jewish, Christian, Mormon, every other faith tradition. And they were bribed from Biden's White House. Jeffrey Zients, the executive director, the chief of staff of the White House, was on that program in May of 2021, when vaccine hesitancy was rising, and they were very afraid. So they got all these religious leaders together. Francis Collins was then director, right, of the NIH, I believe. And then we also, remember, had Vivek Murthy, the Surgeon General, with Jeffrey Zients, right from Biden's White House, telling gross lies to all of these religious leaders, saying, push this vaccine, push it in your congregation. It's Francis Collins. They called him at one point in time, Reverend Francis Collins. Push this. This is a miracle from God. And they so, without any shame, they totally misrepresented the scripture, just awful, saying that this was a miracle from God and God wants you to push the vaccine in your congregation.
Yeah, and of course you have to ask, how much money did they get, as you were just saying. Here's an article from PolitiFact. What Clarence Thomas said about fetal cell lines and COVID-19 vaccine. Fetal cell lines are derived from aborted fetuses and have been used to test and develop vaccines since 1960s. That includes the COVID-19 vaccine. But some vaccines have closer connections to fetal tissues than others. Johnson & Johnson used fetal lines to manufacture its COVID-19 vaccine. Moderna and Pfizer used fetal cell lines only to test their vaccine's safety and efficacy. Thomas's statements were precisely worded, broadly saying that the vaccines were developed using fetal lines, cell lines. He did not go as far as claiming that the fetal tissue is an ingredient in the vaccines. So here's an article talking about this. Now, you got to, by the way, Dr. Thorp, you got to go through a lot of garbage to get an article like this. Most of them are telling you how what we're saying tonight is wrong and a lie. You got to go through a lot of garbage if you put this into a search engine to finally get an article like this and this detailing the truth. It's amazing how many people tonight could put this into a search engine and be led to believe that what we're saying is a lie, when in fact, all the evidence shows it's true.
You're absolutely correct. You look at the number of, you just Google it, put it on Google, and the fact checkers will come up and make these people, gaslight them.
Yep.
Probably take, dozens and dozens of these false misinformation before you get to the truth. And I tell all my patients, there's no better arbitrator of getting you the best care as you being your own advocate. This my message to my patients is your doctors are all liars, paid off liars for the most part. The nurses are all paid off liars for the most part, as are the hospitals, as are the medical organizations, especially the corrupt organizations that govern pregnant women and women of reproductive age. The American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, the American Board of Obstetrics and Gynecology, and the Society for Maternal Fetal Medicine. Even after my testimony in the Senate 5 weeks ago, and 6 days later, Bobby Kennedy comes out and says, okay, no more vaccines in pregnant women. Do you think any of these organizations listen to him? No, not at all. They're all pushing the vaccines in pregnant women. But fortunately, Brandon, guess what? Fortunately, the American people are not stupid.
No,
they
not.
know better. The uptake of the vaccines, of all COVID-19 vaccines, in the last 18 months is a pathetic 1%. And I can tell you, I've been practicing for 46 years now. I'm still actively practicing, busy clinician. I can't disclose my location. I want to protect that hospital for honoring me and allowing me to continue to practice. Nobody in that area is taking vaccines. Nobody is taking the COVID-19 vaccines. Now they're all questioning all the other vaccines.
Of course they are. And we're down to even questioning vaccines for our pets. And I'm seeing more and more veterinarians on social media saying, your dog does not need these shots every year, that many of these shots will last 5, 6, 7 years or the lifetime of the dog. But you're told to drag your dog in there year after year, ka-ching, 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 and now you wonder why Fido only lives to be 7 or 8, not 17 or more. A lot more to go on the other side of the break. Don't go away.
Introducing the Sentry Wellness System, the ultimate under-sink water treatment solution designed with you in mind. Say goodbye to harmful toxins and hello to water enriched with essential nutrients like calcium and magnesium. Enjoy the benefits of increased pH for on-demand alkalinity, all from a zero-waste system that fits seamlessly into your home. Installation is a breeze, taking just 15 minutes, so you can have clean, healthy, great-tasting water straight from your tap. Perfect for apartments, homes, rentals, and even RVs. Elevate your hydration and well-being with the Sentry Wellness System because you deserve the best in every drop.
Sentry H2O. Tap into wellness.
Hello, I'm Brandon House. I want to thank you for all your support at wvwfoundation.com that helps make possible pushing out 24/7 content for free. Without your support, we'd have to put it all behind a paywall. But thanks to you and your support through our foundation, we're able to push it out for free as a broadcast service and broadcast ministry of WVW Foundation. Please consider going there and setting up an automatic monthly contribution, or go there and make an occasional contribution. If you prefer to support us through the mail, you'll find our mailing address there at wvwfoundation.com. You can also call and make your contribution over the phone by calling 901-825-0652. That's 901-825-0652. Again, all these details are available at wvwfoundation.com. Thank you for your support as we try to help people around the world understand the times through the lens of a Christian worldview. All right, welcome back. Glad you're with us. Worldviewtube.com, worldviewtube.com. So interesting, Doctor, you're saying what you're saying, and you don't know this. I mentioned it, earlier in the program. But I had on today, talking about questioning the doctors and the nurses and the industry. I had on earlier today at the 1 o'clock hour, a doctor, anesthesiologist, Dr. Heidi Klessig, K-L-E-S-S-I-G, the brain death fallacy. And she went into all the fallacies and the lack of science behind, your relative's brain dead. And she told all these stories as an anesthesiologist, particularly the first one she was brought in for an organ donor. And she's like, I don't think this guy is gone. But she went on to tell stories of people that they were taking down the hall to take out their organs, and their eyes are open, and they're crying, and yet they're trying to tell you, oh no, they're dead, they're brain dead, and or someone having their rib, their chest cracked open, and then showing signs of life. And she went into great detail on the brain death fallacy to harvest organs. And this is backed up by other medical doctors that are now screaming about this. I know that's not maybe your area, but it fits with what you're talking about. You better question everything, folks, because God forbid your family member ends up in a wreck and they're on life support and you're told they're brain dead. Let us harvest their organs. And in fact, she told the story earlier of a guy that was in a wreck, young man, and they told him he was dead. They were going to take him down the hall and take his organs. And his cousin rubbed his pocket knife, took his pocket knife out and rubbed it against his cousin's foot, and his cousin jerked his foot back. Oh, that's just nerves. He did it again, and the cousin, who could hear everything but couldn't speak, was hearing it, took a swing at his cousin. The guy ended up making a full recovery. He had brain tissue coming out of his ear, she said, but he went on to make a full recovery, was out, living his life. And she was on my show today. People can find it at worldviewtube.com. But she's warning as an anesthesiologist about the very thing you're warning about.
Well, isn't it just consistent with everything else that we are seeing in our society? We look at Planned Parenthood, commercialize massive amounts of really doing the same thing. They're harvesting organs that are really even more valuable than adult organs. Brennan, we have a lot of blood on our hands. We've killed and murdered 70 million fetuses, preborn children, the most innocent, the most vulnerable in our society since Roe versus Wade. So should it be any surprise to you that the hospitals, listen, it's alleged by many very respectable sources that when all of the motivations, the financial incentives to label somebody with a false diagnosis of COVID-19 and then ultimately go through the upper levels of care, including transfer to a NICU, putting on a ventilator, of course, which killed them, giving them remdesivir, and then putting a tag on their foot, going down to the morgue, saying that they died of COVID-19, $100,000 per patient. $100,000 per patient goes to the hospital. And these are from reputable sources. So it's the same thing. Money, people will do anything for the money. The vast majority of my colleagues, physicians, killing and injuring patients, pushing the vaccines. Jim, I had to feed my family. It sounds like exactly what the collaborators of the perpetrated genocide of the Jews, in World War II, turning on the gas chambers, killing 6 million Jews.
I was just following orders, right?
I just following orders. I had to feed my family. No, you don't. Dr. Kirk Moore didn't. I didn't. Many others didn't.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about this article over at the brownstone.org, brownstone.org, the Brownstone Institute. The exoneration of Dr. Kirk Moore and the trial of Pam Bondi. Now, I want to get Dr. Kirk on the broadcast, but thankfully, we were reporting on this now for several weeks. He was going to trial. We talked about how he was not giving COVID shots to patients. This was in, I think, Utah. And in fact, he was giving some children saline because the parents didn't want the kids to be conflicted about lying. So the kids thought they got the COVID shot, but they didn't. He's giving them COVID cards. And in the process of doing this, by the way, you put out, I think somewhere on social media, didn't you put out somewhere how many lives he saved? Yeah, yes. Here you go.
I did my analytics on it.
Okay, here we go. Dr. Thorp, you can follow him on X. See his handle up there at JA Thorp MFM. Immediately after, by the way, Dr. Kirk Moore is one of Dr. Thorp's really, really good friends, really close friends, really close friends. Immediately after Dr. Kirk Moore was charged by the Department of Justice, I stated that he deserved a Congressional Medal of Honor, a Silver Star, and a Nobel Peace Award. We are called by God to not follow illegal and unethical mandates from the government. Do you remember the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in Daniel chapter 3? Dr. Kirk Moore saved 8 lives and 280 injuries by standing up for his Hippocratic oath and giving true informed consent and defying the COVID-19 vaccine mandates. Now, you wrote that, but I want to go back over and have you comment on any of this, but the exoneration of Kirk Moore and the trial of Pam Bondi. Why is this called, and the trial of Pam Bondi? Why is that called that? Why'd they name it that, the trial of Pam Bondi, Doctor?
Well, I think, Clayton Baker, a brilliant young author, and by the way, he was on 2 docs, and he's written an incredible book. I have it around here somewhere. I should show it to you, but brilliant author and a young physician. He brings out the dark side of Pam Bondi. First of all, these charges were made under the corrupt Biden regime, and the head of the DOJ at that time, who knows, probably by an auto pen, but who was the head of the DOJ? I'm just this really, really satanic individual.
Merrick Garland.
Merrick Garland, right? So, as soon as he was relieved of his duties, Dr. Kirk Moore should have been immediately released. Now, those numbers that I came up with, those are my metrics. But if you look in the comments, he treated about 4,000 patients like that. And those are very, very conservative numbers of mine. 8, to be specific, 8.3 lives saved and 283 injuries averted. But as Dr. Margaret stated, really it's twice that many, because of the fact that had he not wasted those vaccines would have gone to somebody else. So really it's twice that many. And I think she's right. Now, Bondi, remember, as best I can tell, and maybe you can verify this, Brannon, I'm under the knowledge, I think, that she was previously employed by Pfizer. Is that right?
Well, she had them, I think, as a client. Here we go. Here's the Miami Herald of many articles. Bondi made changes to DOJ policy. Her former client, Pfizer, might have benefited. July 6, 2025. You'll find a lot of other articles out there like that.
So Pam Bondi, could have dropped those charges, but let Dr. Kirk Moore and his family suffer for another 6 months and put him through 3 days. Maggie and I were with him during this time. This was a man that was in severe emotional distress and persecution, thinking that nobody's listening to him. Why didn't Bondi exonerate him on January 1st? But no, she let it go on. By the way, why did Bondi, it's my understanding, and I could be wrong, that Bondi shut down the lawsuit against her former business, Pfizer, right? Can you confirm that? Do you have knowledge of that, Brandon?
Well, let's see here. Further, Bondi is under severe criticism for having recently dropped a DOJ case against none other than the pharmaceutical giant and serial criminal corporation Pfizer. This is according to brownstone.org. Recall that Pfizer is both a manufacturer of the toxic COVID jabs that Moore protected his patients from, and the current record holder for the largest criminal penalty in Big Pharma's storied legal history ever since DOJ handed it a $2.3 billion fine in 2009. And of course,
can you imagine that?
She let this thing go on. So she came into office. She could have ended it quickly. She let it continue on right up until her sudden announcement. And he was looking at like 39 years in prison over this, I think.
35. and it's just an abomination of justice. I'm glad justice was served. And, then, of course, he was asked to come out to Washington, D.C. and does the photo shoots with really, God love Marjorie Taylor Greene, because she was really the instigator of getting him set free. She forced Bondi, and also he took some pictures of Jim Jordan, who was strongly supportive of him. So God bless them all. But Pam Bondi just cashed in on trying to, and somehow maybe gain some of her market share back for apparent suppressing of everything else, right? JFK files, RFK files, MLK files. How about the 9/11 files? Never mind Jeffrey Epstein files. Oh, it's on my desk. I have it all on my desk. It's going to review. And then months later, oh, there's nothing.
Yep. Let's go to Dr. Marty Macri. He's Food and Drug Administration, I believe. Listen to this.
Approximately 1 in 6 women in the U.S. take an SSRI for depression, including approximately 5% of pregnant women. But few people know that at least one SSRI has been linked to heart defects in babies when exposed in the first trimester. This birth defect may be due to the fact that serotonin may play a critical role in the development of the heart, as well as the brain and the gut of babies in utero. Furthermore, some observational studies have suggested SSRIs taken during pregnancy may increase the risk of birth defects, miscarriage, and neurological and behavioral problems later in childhood. At the FDA, patient safety and transparency are two of our top priorities. That's why next Monday, July 21st at 10 a.m., we will be gathering a diverse group of experts to have a public discussion that you can watch about the current state of science regarding the impact of SSRIs in pregnancy. We will discuss our current FDA product labels and the emerging evidence in the field. This is an evolving area of clinical medicine, and I hope that you will listen to this important scientific debate.
Talk to me about this, please. This is right up your alley as a OBGYN.
Yeah, this is the first time that I will credit and say something positive about Dr. Marty Macri. Remember, he came from the hell's den of Baltimore Johns Hopkins, that is the most governmental captured institution probably in the world. They received $2.3 billion from the government to capture and put out misinformation and propaganda just in 2022. So having stated that, God bless you, Dr. Macri, for making a very cogent and important. Listen, pregnant women should never, ever take any vaccine. And I'm opposed to pushing the SSRIs on them. And I've always been. And here's the reason.
What is that? What is that?
I'm sorry. Antidepressants or any psychoactive medications should not be used in pregnancy. And what's happened is that these doctors have been brainwashed with the three organizations, the AMA, the American Board of OBGYN, the American Obstetrics and Gynecology, exaggerating the risks of depression and suicide, which is a common and natural part of pregnancy and postpartum. And they have used this tool, which is called an Edinburgh scale of depression. And they use it, in essence, like dog bait. And if a certain number is exceeded, the patient has to have this antidepressant. It's a bunch of hogwash. They're dangerous. They've never been tested in the long term. They are associated with defects and malformations. But even more importantly than that, they're associated with long-term potential complications and psychiatric illness in children and in adults. Never been tested. So, it reminds me, Brandon, back in the 90s.
Hold right there. Don't you miss any of it. The computer's going to take it away. We'll be right back after this short break.
Consumers often ask, what should I expect when I take the Bella Grace elixir? And the answer's varied. It really depends on what your health and wellness needs are. I would consider this as your foundational core product for a whole range of health and wellness issues. Let me give you a few examples. If you're a little bit older and you have some joint health issues, some problems with mobility and discomfort, the elixir is going to be your best friend. If you have some skin health issues, wrinkles, hydration, aging, all of those elements are going to be benefited from the elixir, including age spots. Now, if you're in a younger demographic, maybe visual health is where you need some assistance. Eye fatigue, dry eyes, all of those are going to be benefited by the elixir. It's a core product because it benefits so many.
News is moving faster than ever, and so are we. Worldview Tube brings you 24/7 live stream coverage and now real-time alerts when it matters most. Once you have the Worldview Tube app installed, exit the app and navigate your way to Settings. In Settings, locate the tab labeled Notifications. Select the Notifications tab. Scroll down until you locate the Worldview Tube app icon. Select the tab, and here you can turn on and customize your notification experience for the Worldview Tube app. News doesn't wait, and neither should you. Turn on push notifications to stay informed. Every headline as it happens.
You're watching Worldview Tube, built on the 35 years of Worldview books, documentaries, research, high-profile interviews, and the radio and television broadcasts of Brannon House.
With us, worldviewtube.com, worldviewtube.com. Dr. Thorp, what were you going to say before the break? Something about the 1990s?
Yeah, in the 1990s, the pharmaceutical companies in collusion with the hospital did the same thing with narcotics. You remember the pain score and the smiley face and the unhappy face. They posted that in every room, and they held the healthcare providers responsible for the patient having had a smiley face, which in essence did what? Pushed narcotics. And I was vehemently opposed to that because they were pushing narcotics in pregnant women, in laboring women, without even consent. And I would not partake in that. I was employed at the time, and I was written up and had to go to the principal's office and explain my rationale. And my explanation was very simple. This is very dangerous. Pushing narcotics in pregnant women and in anybody, especially, in these not only acute situations, but more importantly, chronic situations, you're going to reap what you sow. And in 10 years, we're going to have an opioid crisis. And my words were prophetic. 10 years later, we were having patients come back, and this is not an exaggeration, on 30 pain pills a day, Brannon, addicted to 30 Lortabs or 30 Tylenol number 3s or 30 Percocets a day.
Wow.
Same thing is happening here. Peter Bregan and many others have warned us that the risks of these psychoactive medications that these pharmaceuticals companies have come up and made billions of dollars on, they're by and large untested. You're well aware, and this data is hidden, that there's a large proportion of these serial killers that, guess what? They've been on these medications. So, we're talking about not pregnant individuals. You should not be using these in pregnancy. Unfortunately, our healthcare system has been corrupted by the almighty dollar, by the corporate kleptocratic entanglement of medical device companies and of the pharmaceutical companies with the government, kickbacks, revolving doors with large payments. And we've had dozens of catastrophic outcomes like this just in the last multiple decades. And of course, the most egregious is the COVID-19 vaccine, but obviously opioids and these psychoactive drugs, these antidepressants are another one. We also have many others.
Let's go to one or two last things here. This is International Journal of Risk and Safety in Medicine. Rates of successful conceptions according to COVID-19 vaccination status, data from the Czech Republic. We have that. I think we have another one. Payments by drug and medical device manufacturers to U.S. peer reviewers of major medical journals. Oh, yeah, follow the money. Hammer these two out real quick before we go.
Yeah, Vivek Manish, first country in the world that released all their healthcare data. Ironically, a former communist bloc country, right? Czechoslovakia. So they opened up all their data. Basically, what they've seen, the COVID-19 vaccines have been associated with a 30% reduction in fertility. The second study you didn't show, but it's Karaman and colleagues from Turkey just released a study showing that the vaccine has been associated with a 60% reduction, 60% reduction in ovarian reserve of eggs. And then finally, the study that you did show by David Dan Wen and colleagues, published October 10th, just last year, 2024. This is an incredible article. So not only is our federal government paying off the editors of the journal, but what this brilliant cadre of authors showed, that the pharmaceutical companies and device manufacturers are paying directly the reviewers of these four major medical journals: the New England Journal of Medicine, JAMA, also known as the Journal of the American Medical Association, BMJ, the British Medical Journal, and Lancet. Those are the four most prominent medical journals in the world. And these authors looked at just the United States of America and just the reviewers of 3 years, 2020, 2021, and 2022. They received $1.06 billion, Brandon.
Good.
Don't trust your journals. Don't trust your doctors. Don't trust Jim Thorp. Do your own due diligence. You are your own best health advocate.
Indeed.
Do not believe any of these hospitals.
And be sure to follow Dr. Thorp. I got to go to this, though, real quick. Your beautiful wife, she's an attorney, Dr. Thorp. And who is that? Who is that beautiful canine? Who is that?
You know, I'm a disabled veteran, and that's Dylan. That is my service dog.
Really?
Yeah.
What's the service? Or is that too private?
No, the service is basically for chronic pain, and also for support, physical support. Help me get up, and goes everywhere I do, except on hospital assignment.
Yeah, you have major back issues, don't you?
I do, and I've had just a couple of more procedures here in the last couple of weeks.
Well, people can pray for Dr. Thorp. What now? Tell me, did you say the dog's name is Dylan?
Dylan, like Bob Dylan, D-Y-L-A-N.
You have Dylan and I have Dolly. What kind of dog? Is that a standard poodle?
That is a standard poodle, and he's like a horse. He's an unusual variety. It's called Partey, but he's full-bred poodle. Incredible animal, just incredible.
My wife grew up with a standard poodle, and she talks about that dog often. She loved that dog. Standard poodle. There you go. Follow him at J.A. Thorp, M-F-M, at J-A-T-H-O-R-P. M as in Mary, F as in Frank, M as in Mary. And don't forget his book. Look at that. There it is, folks. He's holding it up. Sacrifice by Dr. Thorp. You can get it at Amazon. Just put in Dr. Thorp on Amazon and get his book.
And I want to just point out that the Wellness Company, all the donations that I'm making, and Maggie and I, which are well over $20,000, and haven't even yet got a payment from this book, all the payments will be going to the Wellness Company. I challenge them to start a fund. It's called the Wellness Company Initiative Fund. They are matching all our donations and giving a % of their sales. And we now have a large sum of money in there. It's all going to the COVID-19 vaccine victims, and we've made our first award to the Martin family.
Excellent. Oh, wow. Great idea. That's awesome. Check out his book, folks. And then also worldviewtube.com/2docs. worldviewtube.com/TWODOCS. worldviewtube.com/2docs. And you can watch all the great programs by Dr. Thorp and Dr. Moon. And they also air on Saturday and Sundays in our 24/7 stream. And then you can watch them on demand on Saturday and Sundays on our website. And because we're putting up so much content, if their show gets pushed down, all you got to do is go to worldviewtube.com/TWODOCS, and you'll find all their shows right there. Dr. Thorp, as always, let's try to get you back more regularly. It's been too long.
Thank you so much for having me on, Brandon.
Thank you. Say hi to Maggie. Say hi to your wife. Dr. Thorp, checking in tonight.